Right.
Hola.
Hola. How you doing?
He's saying hola, I don't know why. It's like a message my load of people basically being like, I need people for my project. But I started it with hola.
I don't know, I say aloha a lot and I don't know why I do that, but I feel like it just feels nice to shake up a greeting, so I'm bored of just saying the same thing.
And for me it was especially, I think it's because I don't really speak, like I know all these people but I haven't seen them or spoken to them maybe since like school or whatever, so it was just like hola, randomly popping up.
Hello, it's just me.
Remember me?
Just popping into your space, hope you're well.
So yeah.
So, how have you been? How's your week been?
Well, I've been forced to just stay at home because I was ill. Because I went to Love Saves the Day.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Was kind of a washout, which was fine.
Washout as in the rain?
Yeah. Like we literally saw maybe like 1-2 acts and then it rained a lot and they didn't have enough like covering, so everyone was like under the bar or like in this tiny gazebo, and so they closed the bars because everyone was under there and we were like, well, I'm happy to stay, like we literally stayed. Some of the people that we came in with like went home, but 3 of us were like, we'll stay, like we can have a good time. And then we started sobering up and then they weren't serving drinks and we were like so cold, like it's so cold, and all you can think about is like, you know, you either got to be off your face or you want to go home and be cozy, because the longer you stay the worse it's gonna get, and then when you get home it's just good, like, and it's getting home as well, it's like gotta find a taxi, there's like thousands of people and like
and even if you drank more, it's like you don't really want to be drenched, dragging yourself through the mud.
Like it literally was, when I say drenched, like if you stand under a shower with your clothes on, that's exactly how it was, and that could be like under as well, it was for like 2 hours or something like that as well, so it's not like it's a long shower.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that happened, but you know, maybe you just had to be there to just get drenched by the rain, have a bit of purification, go home.
I did have a good time though, like I think it just showcased, like in the past maybe I would have been really upset and like, I don't know, annoyed and like about money or whatever it was, and like none of that even crossed my mind. It was just kind of like, it is what it is. And we stayed as long as I could, and then it was actually more of a test of like listening to myself, like okay, I want to go home now, because in the past I would have like I dragged it out longer than some of the other people, but at the same time I didn't drag it out as much as I probably would have, like my past self. Until a point where I hated myself because I was trying to have fun that bad, and it's like there's just being in denial, and like I didn't want to be in denial, and I wanted to, like, I know myself and I will be really annoyed. I'm not that person who's going to be rolling around the mud in that moment. It's too cold. I want to be in the warmth. And then we got like Chinese takeaway, perfect. Like I don't want anything else.
Yeah, that does sound like a good
I want dry clothes and food, and grateful that I saw Shy FX, and that's fine.
Yeah, I bet Shy FX was good, to be fair. That's a good like one act to see.
Yeah, and it's funny because I did say, I was like, there was only 3 people out of the list that I said. But the first person I went Shy FX because I hadn't even looked at a lineup, and they said, who are you looking forward to? I was like, I don't know who's playing. Just going.
I'm just here.
That's always what I do. And then the first person that stood out was Shy FX, so there you go.
It's not a total washout then?
No, it just, you know, the field washed us out with it. And then 2 days after I got really ill. I don't know if it was from there. I think it is actually, because
you were drenched.
Other people got ill as well, so it's just I don't think it's so bad, but like I had to get it off work. I literally went into work. This is another sign of listening in, actually, and but still giving it your best shot.
Yeah.
which was like, in the morning I was like, I'm not feeling right. Did my makeup, got ready, and I was like, right, I've got to go to work. Let's just go, Leyla, because you might feel better. Like, it was proper, like, adult, like, and proper mothering myself. I'm not sure what I would have done. I know that sad, down Leyla would have definitely just stayed at home and, like, given up straight away. And then the other one would have stayed the whole time. But instead I got there, and then I sat in the staff room just before my shift, and I was like, first thing actually, I came in and I said straight away to the manager, like, I'm not feeling myself, but I'm just going to go upstairs and sit down. Sat down, and then I just listened, and I was like, no, like, why am I here? Just go home, like, go home. Even though I could do stuff then, I just knew I wasn't right, and like, I didn't want to get anyone else ill either.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and then it just showcased, because later on I was just like that evening and then the days following, I was just like so not right, like I was very ill. So yeah, it just shows that it's good to listen in and be like, you know what, I'm deserving and don't need to feel bad for taking care of my well-being. And in both situations were that, actually. The first one is obviously, I don't want to get cold. I don't want to get that cold, like, because it's almost like a self-destructive thing to do.
Yeah, like, I'm going to be here for hours and just like ride that out, but it would be self-destructive.
And the only way to do that act as well is to be even more self-destructive, which is drink more or take drugs or something, like, you know, that's going to get you warm. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Like, I've definitely got like this inner mother now that I like, I proper like mother myself now. It's very cute.
Yeah, it reminds me of what you were saying about what you used to do when you were a kid, where you would like mother yourself. And you're like, that's back. Well, that's nice. Literally. I kind of feel bad that I had a different week because I just wasn't ill.
Oh no, it's fine, because for me it was actually like, it was time to, there's a lot of spiritual stuff that happened, to be honest, like, because I was spending so much time alone. But I'll get into that. How was yours?
I was just waiting for you to get right in then. But my week was it was really nice. I think, was it last Saturday that it was at the Jubilee? So like, it was, you know, I thought it was going to be chaotic at work, but it just ended up being really nice. People were in a really good vibe and atmosphere, so work's been really fun. We had like a works night out on Monday with all the staff, and I didn't really know like how everyone would gel together, but that ended up being really fun. It was a lot heavier than I expected. I was out in Switch in town with like all the staff. It was funny because we walked in
Switch.
I know, but like, we walked in and it was just us in there, and the guy DJing was the guy that DJ'd at our Jubilee like thing at work. It was just a really random coincidence that he was in there. So I was like, just loving the synchronicities, and I was just like vibing with Aldo, the DJ. And
I actually forget that you're in Plymouth, like, it's so funny.
I know, I'm back in your old stomping ground, but I've been born and bred here, so this is my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know, other than that, I've been kind of getting back into like research mode a little bit. Like, I've been really just like looking, because I think from our conversation last time I wanted to look more into like the Bible and into old texts. So I've been kind of going down this route a lot, and I was looking at the Old Testament and how it kind of relates to like so many ancient stories from all over the world. There's the roots in the Old Testament are in so many cultures, which I didn't realise. And then I was looking into dragons from that, because this is like a random little fact that I just come across because my brother had sent me this link on it, and like the word for dragon in every language and ancient culture has the same etymology and phonetic sounds. So it's really weird how this dragon pops up all across these cultures, but the actual sound of the word they associate with it is phonetically and etymologically from the same source, and they don't really know why that is. So I was looking into that. And Yeah, this guy was saying that it's even in the Old Testament of the Bible, there's a lot of descriptors that would indicate a dragon in there as well, and it has the same sort of roots. So that's been the last part of my week, just looking into random things like that, and yeah, it's just been fun.
Dragon's quite a big thing in like Eastern philosophy, isn't it? Or like just China and especially China. I
especially
think.
China, yeah. There's a massive symbol there.
I mean, they literally have like, what is it? Like a New Year for it and stuff.
Yeah, I just thought it was really cool, and like the word itself means to like see clearly, and it pops up in all of these cultures. And I was just like, what is that about? And like a lot of these ancient cultures spoke about a time where it was like these sort of things ruling over them, and even though it's ancient scripture and ancient stories, it's funny how it pops up everywhere. So I just got lost in a rabbit hole of looking in that. And as I'm saying this, I'm looking at a dragon head I actually have on the side, and I've got a dragon next to me, so I'm just like laughing at that.
So weird.
There's some symbology to find in there, I'm sure. I just need to figure out the meaning.
That's something. It sounds like you've just touched the surface or something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, right, I'm just there at the minute trying to figure out what that means, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I like when you just get guided down a little like research rabbit hole, and you're like, how did I get here? Why am I here? Why am I looking at this?
It's so funny because like, I think I used to do that a lot more, but now, especially on like spiritual stuff, but now when I get into, if I ever do, which I feel like I don't know why, but I don't allow myself to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think there's a part of me now that's like it's great, like it's so good to learn about it, but it's like not aligned with me anymore. Like it's almost like other people's jobs. Maybe it's like your job or whatever.
Yeah.
But like for me, it's just like, okay, I don't want to know. Like,
yeah.
The best way I can describe it is like in photography, I don't want to know too many technicals of the camera because it ruins the way I photograph. It was the same when I learned. I was really good at acting naturally.
Yeah.
And then I took lessons like drama and stuff, and it messed me up.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I just was overthinking it. So now I think anything that's in my head, I just don't dwell in it at all. Like, I don't spend a long time in it, because I don't know. It just like makes me not embodied. Like, I'm not in my body anymore. It just makes me really anxious.
Yeah.
So especially if it's like too much knowledge. Like, it's great knowing about spirituality and stuff, but now even if I see a sign or a symbol, very, very rarely, sometimes I'll look up what a number means, but only if it really, really pulls at me, so it's very rare. Usually I just see it and I go, okay, it's just reassurance now, whereas before I used to look up everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, if like anyone does that, like, oh, you obviously don't, like, you're just like the dragon pulled at you, like that's the same as like a number or something. But like if anyone else does that, where they're like researching every sign and symbol, it's not good. And it's actually funny because I can't remember where, but I actually opened up a random page in the Bible and it said to stop looking for signs. Jesus said, why are you all asking for signs? He was like, you don't need to. Why can't you just believe anyway? Just have faith. That's all. That's it. Just let it go. Like, it's the same with all teachers. Like, all their message is so like, let it go. Like, it's just, let's not even overthink this. Let's just enjoy our time. Which is, yeah, it's definitely a practice.
It's a tricky balance, ain't it? Because I think definitely over researching is a problem, and there's an element where you just need to be with things. Like, if I have dreams or if I see symbols, I try and not really look into them too much because I know that that's going to link up at a later date and make more sense to me, so I don't need to over research that. But then also there's an element to knowledge where if I just stopped exactly where I am right now, then maybe there are some things that I wouldn't necessarily understand that I would want to understand for who I am. And like things like etymology and looking into the roots of words I find very fascinating because it opens me up to certain things that I wouldn't have necessarily known myself, just because of even maybe my upbringing or what I was taught in school, what other people have said to me. There's always information going in there, and sometimes it's hard to filter what's right and what isn't. So I love that kind of like history of language because it just gives me like, I don't know, it just kind of guides me to certain places, and I love that about it. So that's something that I just love. And I think I ended up getting into it because I was looking, a random like fact come up somewhere, and it was saying about how, because I was looking at, you know, the 33, and it just came up somewhere, and it was saying how in Freemasonry it's kind of used to represent a change of state, because in Fahrenheit at 32 degrees that's ice, and then 33 in Fahrenheit is water, so it represents a change of state. And I was like, oh, that's sick. And then I was looking at this guy and this etymology stuff, and then it took me down that route, and I was like, fascinating. I wouldn't have got to that information without that bit of research.
And sometimes it's just this like flow state, isn't it? It's a flow state, which is really cool, because that means you're probably like tapped in with spirit or whatever. And what I was going to say is that, yeah, sometimes you are like, wait, I need a little bit more, because it doesn't really make sense on its own. So like I said, I've started doing these boards every morning, and I use it's actually quite a few little things, but it takes me like a half an hour first thing in the morning. But I'll read the Daily Stoic, which is like a page, and each one's dated, and then I pick an oracle and do an affirmation. And then I pick a random page in the Bible, read the verse, pick out what sticks out to me, and then write it on the board and then underline it. But today the oracle, it came out, and I was like, it's like almost a non-satisfaction of, doesn't quite link with everything else. So then you almost have to like, I pulled another one, and then I was like, okay, now it makes sense. So sometimes you do need that as well. I feel like sometimes there can be failure in communication between you and spirit, or maybe you weren't quite in the right energy when like maybe you could have understood the first message, but actually you weren't quite there. Do you know what I mean? Or like Mr. Mark, they're not quite there yet.
I know what you're saying, and like this helps me kind of knit together my like chaotic outpour of things I was saying then, because the guy that I ended up looking into, and I'll have to link this because I can't pronounce his name because he's Italian, it's like Mauro Bellucci, something like that, but he was translating, so he was like an official translator for the Vatican and translated the Hebrew words into English for the like interlinear dictionaries, dictionaries, interlinear Bibles. So he was getting into the real etymological roots for these Hebrew words, and a guy that he was like being interviewed by was talking about higher cognition and like precognition and remote viewing and this sort of experiences that people have where information comes to them without them having to look for it. So like when you're saying like communicating with spirit and being in this sort of state, he was talking about that as well, and how you can have this information come to you when you're in certain states, but it's like, how do you unlock that? You're not necessarily always in that state, so sometimes you need like a bit of extra information, or you need something to kind of make it make sense what's come through in that respect as well. So it's like he was talking to that as well, and I thought it was so fascinating. Love that.
I actually really want to talk about this because that really makes me think about, so basically I was doing some research because I still do oracle, and sometimes I will pull a tarot, but big but when I used to study it, I guess you could call it a study, when I used to do tarot, like way before when I first got into it, what the difference was is that I didn't set an intention before. So God knows what I was tapping into or allowing in.
Yeah.
So all vibrations, and as well at that moment in time I would have been in a lower state of vibrational frequency because I was not in a good place.
Yeah.
So naturally, as well, calling in ancestors, and some of my ancestors might freaking hate me. I don't know.
Yeah, they might have lived the worst
they
sort of
might be
lifestyles
crazy.
as well.
I don't know.
Yeah, and you're like, get in here.
And I'm like, come help me make higher decisions. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. That's the new age feel.
And then I was looking up, and this guy said, you know what? I used to take care of this. He was a nurse.
Yeah.
And said that there was a 109-year-old nun in this elderly home.
Right.
And she used tarot all the
Amazing.
time. And he asked her, like, so, you know, what do you think about this? Because obviously the Bible says about not using it and witchcraft and stuff like that. And she said, well, I use it to speak to my God. People can speak to their whatever they have deemed as their God, and the main thing is like, what are you speaking to? What have you tapped into? What frequency and vibration are you at? And to receive those loving, nature-based kind of frequencies, you need to set an intention before. Like every time before I say, protect me, and make sure that I see. It's about the seeing, because the other energy can put a blinder on, and you end up seeing the cards through fear. So you could, as well, it's not asking about someone else. Don't ask about the future, the past, trying to manipulate or control anyone else. It's more just like, how can I be my best self right now? Please help me see with open eyes through love, and to release any fear that will blind me. Exactly. That is like, honestly, like so good. And also knowing that you can only get those answers from yourself.
Exactly. I was going to say, all of those things that you speak to as well, even like these outside energies or vibrations, it's all aspects of yourself as well. Like you're lining up to certain things based on your frequency, but there's still elements of you as well. So I think it's about being fully in yourself and fully in your own energy, and then using that as your intention to ask. And if you're asking for things that are like greed based or lack based or fear based, money based, you're going to get certain things coming in, and it's only going to deceive you, because it's not really what our energy is supposed to be used for. It's supposed to be used for self-growth and for, you know, assisting others. So if you're in a different space, you're going to get tricked and you're going to be deceived by those things. For sure.
And it's about like the action that you can take from it.
Definitely.
Rather than saying, my hands are yours, you know, you're in control. Tell me my future. Like, no, that's not it. Like, we're here. Let's do it together. Let's collaborate together with this energy and choose love and move forward. Like, that's so much better than just being like, I have no control, my hands are tied.
Yeah. Over to you.
Over to you. Oh, I'm gonna die in 3 years. Shit, I'm gonna now live in fear, wondering how that's gonna happen for the next 3 years. Until you realise it doesn't happen. So
it's like there's so many like tarot loops I've gotten into in the past, and it's like tarot itself isn't bad if you're using it yourself for yourself and you're in the right space with it. In a way. I mean, I don't do it often, but I know if I was to put a card now, it would be coming from my own energy. I'm not inviting something else in to take that over for me. So, but it's still not something I gravitate to often at all anyway now, because it's not something...
I feel like it's a trap for people who are in a dark place. I think it's for people who want answers, or for people with trauma, which is when I fell into it, you have trauma and you are so scared what's going to happen in the next second, next day, next whatever. You're always, you need answers. What's going to happen next, because you don't feel safe.
Yeah.
So like tarot is very, very dangerous for anyone who is not in the right, healthier mindset. If you haven't healed, don't ever use tarot, I don't think. Like, it can mess you up.
Yeah, especially if you're not in the realization that, you know, your energy is bringing in certain things, and that is, it does still sit with you. So if you're scared of everything that's coming next without recognizing your own role in that situation as well, that's when it becomes a really dark cycle and a dark loop, because you're not really able to process and figure out your trauma and move forward with it in yourself. You're like looking to all of these external things to give you an answer, and most of those people are very cult leader in their energy, whether it's tarot, whether it's whoever it is. Very cult mentalities once you start giving your energy up to other people to give you answers instead of putting it inside.
Right, because I was doing it for other people, and I remember I just said to them, I was like, I can't do this anymore, because you're seeking answers you already have inside of you. Yeah. And I don't want you to think that I'm giving you anything more than you already have, because it's there. You're just wanting confirmation because you don't trust yourself.
Yeah, literally. That's the key.
That's all it is.
Yeah, but isn't that crazy?
And actually, as well, you don't need the cards. You don't need any of it. You can have those messages yourself. The reason I'm doing this is because I want it in my creative process.
Yeah.
Because it gives me little initiation to, okay, how can we plan my photography project today? And this is leading me and helping me have goals. You know, you go to school and they write objective.
Yeah, it's helping you put your focus in that place.
That's my objective today. And it does, it sticks for the whole day, and it really works. Like, I feel like I have a teacher, my collaboration with Spirit is my teacher, and I can physically see it for my work.
Yeah.
But for life, I don't need that, because there's no deadline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
But like, when you've got certain projects or things you want to work on, it's good to have that focus. And it always reminds me of, just if you look at quantum physics and all of that stuff, the role of the observer and how important your focus is and how it brings things in and holds things into place. That's what this energy is around us. So your focus is so important. So it makes sense that if you have that board and you focus your intention on a project, like, things will come through and work with that. It's where you're putting your energy. So it's good to like do stuff like that to keep it in place and keep it going in that direction. So keeps the focus in that direction. Yeah.
It's actually like today, the Stoic said about solve the problem before it gets bigger. You know, when it's a small stream, you can walk through it. When it's a freaking river at the end, might drown. It's gonna be a lot more difficult. So I was like, okay, what's this talking about? I was like, what problem is it that's bothering me right now? And I was like, okay, so I'm worried because I haven't got anyone emailing me back, and I need people for this photo, like I need to do a photo shoot next 2 weeks, and I need to plan around work and like all this stuff. And you know, I do this for myself. I do projects where I work with other people, strangers, and it often means that for the whole time I have no idea what's really happening.
Which is fun and scary
because
at the same time.
you're relying on people, especially when it's like total strangers. But I was like, okay, how can I relieve that stress? What other options? Let's have some other options other than my only option, which is like relying on these people to email me back or whatever. And I was like, right, okay, so think of all the people that you know that is somewhat local that you could use. Maybe they're not in Cheltenham. I know you wanted to do Cheltenham originally, but get over it. We're going to go a different way. Allow it. And then the other idea was like, oh, well, I'll just walk around the streets. At least I get to walk around. If I see at least one or two that is relevant to the project and I get a picture, that's way better than none. So that's my mentality now,
Yeah.
whereas before I used to be like, it has to be this many people and like has to be done like this, and that just causes so much stress, and like you end up waiting too long and it just all falls apart. So I'd much rather, and I think especially with unis and even school or whatever, you do a project, you have a deadline, the people who are marking understand that you have a deadline, so that you've had to kind of shift and change according to the deadline.
Oh yeah, the adaptability
to kind of accommodate
part. Yeah, you get the marks for that anyway, just explaining how you've adapted. Yeah,
because I mean, it's not just arts, but in art practices especially, I mean, actually that's such a lie, science as well, but you could do a project for years, you could work on one thing for years, but you have 3 months. So it's like, right, we're not doing that 3-year thing, we're thinking maybe this is like the first initial step, like we're not going to try and get it perfect, just kind of the best we can. But so far it's gone great, because I just messaged them, and there's people keen. They've obviously got friends as well, like who dress the same, and I was like, please, let them know. And I said, I was like, for the photo shoot we can do barbecue, we'll get some music going. It's pretty chill. Like I want that as well within the background of it. So just fun. Like the whole purpose of this project I want is fun, because I think we can all get very serious, even because I'm like, you study photography, you study whatever, and it's like, oh, so serious, I must be, I don't know, like everyone just is a bit stuck in their heads.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds, like what you're saying just now reminded me of like a lot of musicians would be like, you have your whole life to do your first album, and then as soon as it gets any sort of success, then you're regimented and you have to get one out by this time, by this deadline. And university and school is very much the same. It's like, great, you've got this idea, but you've got this amount of time, you have milestones you've got to hit, and it does take a little bit away from that process and makes you a bit more in your head. So it's good that you recognize that element, bring it a bit closer to home. That's, I've got to work to this schedule, but it still doesn't need to be stressful. I just need to bring it into a more comfortable space where I can reach out and get these people in.
And like, even if this, I think like this is why I think everyone should practice like art things, because they actually do teach you life lessons when you do them. Like that's a life lesson, me not letting go of control and kind of, okay, I had this idea, but I'm willing for it to change. Like that has been with every single one of my projects. And now I remind myself, well, in that project you were having a breakdown because it wasn't going your way, but actually it worked out beautifully and you did great. So and it's the same with life. Like we always think, I wanted to be with that person, or I wanted to go to that event, or whatever it is, but actually it worked out for the better. And
I saw like a little quote, and it was just saying like, change is the only constant in this life, and it still speaks to that. It's like you just have to adapt and change with whatever's actually going on in front of you. Like you always have these ideas or this end goal, but actually it needs to shift along the way a lot of the time, and like where you end up is always where you need to be anyway. So it is funny how you have to constantly practice that letting go in a lot of respects, and even if it's just letting go of how you think something needs to go, or you know what I mean, because you're still being guided in the right direction to where you need to be for this project. It's just you might not necessarily have full sight about yourself the whole time.
Change is definitely that brings me to my, when I was ill, because like it brought a lot of change, because even though I was ill, but it's because I was spending a lot of time on my own, but it also meant that I couldn't go out and do my photos, I couldn't do all these things, and instead, like this has been a recurring thing, is what can I do with what I have? Like, it was, I know it's such a simple, like, lesson, but to me it was just like, oh yeah. Because this whole time I've been stressing, like, oh, I haven't got this for this project, I haven't got enough money for this, I haven't, whatever it is, just worrying about stuff. And then, because I was in my room in this house so much, and I was just looking around, and I was like, I have so many things. So many. Like, I can use so much of this stuff. And instead of being stubborn, how about I use this camera instead of the one that you wanted to? And how about we do this instead? And this person wants to help over there, and why don't you allow them to help you? Just little things like that, and just kind of a realization of, I don't know how to, it's such a big understanding, but at the same time so simple, so like it's really hard to like put it into words. But rather than wishing for something in the future, it's just being, it's not
it's
even
like
that.
You kind of, you forget what's right around you, don't you, sometimes?
Yeah.
And when you actually are forced to stop and look at what's around you, you're like, this is beautiful, and I've got so many tools around me that I can use, and everything I need is right here as well.
I know now, because I wrote, basically, I've been watching a lot of Turkish stuff recently, tapping back into my Turkish stuff, which has been great.
Yes.
I need to talk about that as well.
Love to hear it, yes, please.
But basically I wrote a journal entry in Turkish. I sat in the garden, and I've been seeking a lot more silence, and anytime I struggle with turning off technology, I'll watch like those silent, quiet, slow living vlogs, or like the women living in Afghanistan, they do that, and there's no music, there's no nothing, it's real life sounds. So the moment I watch one of those, I close it afterwards because I want to do it. So like it's quite a good way to get off tech almost.
That's a good point. And do you know what came into my head the other day, just to not to interrupt, but you know the women that we watched when they were in the jungle just like making the food for the day? It just came into my head because I was like just pottering around the house, and it's like I must have been in a similar like kind of flow to that, and it just came into my head, and I was like, that was beautiful, and it's so like relaxing and inspiring. So I can see why that's a good thing to do. I need to remember to just throw that on.
There's like Japanese ones, found some Turkish, like all they do is housework, or they're cooking, or it's just such normal things, and it's bliss. But I'm excited to talk about this topic because I feel like you'll have stuff to say about it as well. Basically, I'll read this, it's not all in Turkish, but I'll read this part, which is her şeyi bana verdiğini severim, nasıl istersen her şeyi severim. So it means I will love everything that you have given me. However you want me to, I will love it. And then the translation for the next bit is, you've given me a beautiful life, a family, friends, work, a place of study, a home, everything. Thank you. I'll love it. I'm not scared anymore, and I will live accordingly. So it's kind of just like, sorry, like I'm so sorry how ungrateful I have been, basically. Like we're put into our heads, we're told, or you see other people's lives. Now I understand don't compare yourself, in terms of you don't realize you're doing it, and someone's got that kind of friend, or they've got 5 friends, or they've got a group, or their family looks like this and they behave like a certain way, all of these things, but actually you can just look at what you have and genuinely be grateful, and then choose with your own value system to treat them with so much love, no matter how they treat you, no matter how ordinary or how boring or how shitty it might look to other people, which most people really don't care, let's be real, everyone's thinking about themselves, but you just gotta find a way to choose happiness. Like, I don't know, I just really, really got that. And then I wrote in English, alright, so what if I'm ordinary? I'll be the best kind of ordinary I can be. After all, aren't we all ordinary anyway? Just because someone has a lot of eyes on them, money, or physical success, does that make them more extraordinary than the unknown woman who does not know how to stop loving even when no one is looking? Like, because you know, I've said before, like, oh, when I was younger I wanted to be this and that or whatever, but actually I've been tapping back even further.
Yeah.
And actually I never wanted to be anything important in the eyes of anyone else before, like when I was young, and I just wanted to be like a housewife like my aunties, or like a teacher and teach kids. It just ordinary, normal things. Wanted to go to the market and, you know, like go do my food shopping and sit in the sun and enjoy life. And I think until now, like, I properly like released a lot of things. And I'm saying this and it's like ironic because we're like filming ourselves, but it's just like, it's okay to be ordinary. Like, it's okay. I think for so long I've been bothered by, I was like, oh my gosh, do I look ordinary? I don't want to be ordinary. Like, I was so scared of being ordinary or like being a failure in my own eyes. It was always my own judgment. It wasn't anyone else. And now I'm like, oh, actually, like, I don't even want that life I've been striving for, and now I know what I want. Now I know I want to live, like, do an off-grid life and grow my own vegetables and things like that, and do creative art and create art and photography, do things with my hands, learn through doing, and if I can teach people, then great. Like, that's awesome.
Do you know what's so funny? It's like, I understand the energy of ordinary, like, that you're talking to, and it's funny because what's ordinary for you isn't ordinary for the next person either, but that energy of ordinary in yourself is just you sitting into yourself and being like, this is me. That, you know what I mean? Like, from outside perspectives, the things that you're going to do with your ordinary energy is different to theirs. They'll find that to be unique. You'll come across people that love you for the things that you do, but to you it's just ordinary, and that's how you want to feel about ordinary in yourself. You don't want to feel pulled in all of these different directions, and you want to do what's right for you, and that is very ordinary. It feels ordinary, and that I understand that fear around that, because I didn't want people to think I was boring or ordinary, but it's like, as soon as you sit into yourself, that makes you magnetic, and it brings people in, and they can learn the things that to you are so ordinary but they might not know, like all of this off-grid and learning how to do these vegetables and working with your hands. All of that stuff is really unique to you but ordinary for yourself, whereas I would want to learn all of that stuff from you. I'd love to sit down and learn all of, you know, how you paint and how you do your performance work. Like, all of that stuff is ordinary to you, but it's not ordinary to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I always forget about that, but obviously you recognise it in other people, but you forget. And I think the main point that stuck with me as well is like, we are, like you're saying, when it's not ordinary, like almost none of us are ordinary, but at the same time we're all ordinary in that sense, and that's what I'm saying. And it's because we are in a world where, like, we put people on pedestals like they're gods, or maybe not gods, but like idols, and like they're better than us, and only because they're seen. And I just think that's really weird, because at the end of the day, even so there's a photographer called Vivian Maier, and then obviously there's like Vincent Van Gogh. They were never seen.
Yeah.
As the human that they were. They weren't seen. And then they blew up after their death. Does that make them extraordinary, or were they ordinary? How do you decide that? Do you see what I'm saying? Because just because they got that lucky, I don't know if it is lucky as well, being seen afterwards, how many other treasures are not seen?
Yeah.
That's the reality of it, and I think that's what sat right with me, is even if no one sees it ever, it's still extraordinary to me.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful perspective. And like what you were saying with all of these like idols and, you know, external people that are put on these pedestals, is I would never wish for that sort of level of being seen, because the more, if you're seen by millions of people, for example, you're held to a certain set of style or attributes, or you know what I mean, like you become really stuck in one mode then, and you have to look a certain way. Your life needs to be a certain thing. Think about how many Hollywood stars or all of these people, the amount of trauma that comes out later in their life that they then start to speak to, or they then start to talk about. I would never want to be held in place in that sort of structure. I'd much rather, you know.
Yeah, also like some of them do feel stuck because of that eye gaze, and it's similar to what we were saying earlier about like, so let's say when I did drama, I think, I can't remember what video it was or anything, but someone said, God forbid someone tells you well done on something, because it's almost the worst thing someone can do sometimes, because now you're self-aware. Yeah. And also you feel like you gotta do it for someone else now, and it does mess you up. And like I've gotten better at showing people my work, but I'm still very, very, I've drawn back actually again, because I tried it out a little bit, you know, showing people stuff, but actually to me it's like your baby, like it's your process, and for someone else to poke their finger in and say, actually I think you should do it like this, or I think this. And I do find that in like my lectures, sometimes I'll have a tutorial with someone and they have the best of intentions, but sometimes it triggers me because it confuses me. And I'm like, but you have to, it almost strengthens you as a person, because you decipher your voice, what resonates with you, and you can only do that by putting yourself out there as well. So you have to kind of share it with the right people, I guess, who do as well know what they're talking about, can give you some helpful advice, and then you can put aside anything that doesn't resonate. I think that's good. But if you just show it, let's say you're trying to do music and you show someone who can't even play music, what's the point? What is the point? Because they're not going to be very helpful. All they're going to do is probably criticize you or say, great. Which is, again, not that helpful. It's just validation.
Not if you're in a process where you're trying to, you know, refine a track, or you're trying to put something out. Like, it's not going to be helpful to that. And oh my god, one last thing just before I forget. I was thinking as well, and I don't know how it links into what we just said, but I remember seeing a quote yesterday, and it was I want to say Osho, but I don't know who that is. And it was just a quote that said, you know, I never knew what I wanted. Yeah, maybe. It was just a quote that said, you know, I never knew what I wanted to be, because I always saw that as a trap. Like, I didn't want to be a doctor or a dancer, or I never set that in stone, because otherwise, yeah, you will end up becoming that thing, but then what about the rest of you? What about, you know, the constant change? Or so it's like, you know, if you aim for that one thing, you will become it, but then at the expense of what else? And I think when you keep yourself, like these things to yourself, you allow that flow of change as well. You're not just known for one thing, you're not being kept in one place, you're not, you can just really flow with that and do everything that you really want to be doing. So I think it's nice to not be seen when it comes to like those processes inside as well.
It's just not having expectation. It's fully releasing any kind of expectation as to who you're gonna be, who you're meant to be, because you'll maybe get loved more for that thing. But I was gonna say with the musicians, it's funny because I kept being recommended recently videos of musicians saying they're quitting, or even like Doja Cat, she's only been in it for like what, a year, and some other people from the past, and I kind of looked and I was like, yo, like it's okay, to have those dreams, like if you want to be a musician, you want to go on stage, or you want to be an actress or whatever, it's okay, but are you practicing every day? Are you actually, are you just in your head, or have you actually got the skills? Are you actually building it up for that? Or are you just depressing yourself? Are you, you know what I mean? Like sometimes like having those big goals can hinder you so bad. And I actually feel really bad because I've seen that in other people, almost like their potential, and I've like thrown that onto them like a heavy freaking weight. And I feel really bad about it now, because what do I know? What do I really know? And it's not fair to ever put that kind of pressure onto anyone, because then they feel like, oh, I got to do this, and especially if it's someone who feels like they are trying to please multiple people at the same time, they're not going to know what to do, and then they don't know how to actually hear themselves. So yeah, it's not good.
I think it's funny as well, because in these sorts of industries like music or film or drama, it's like these institutions feel like big dreams, like, oh, I want to make it and be like an artist like Doja Cat, or I want to be in like a Hollywood film, but they feel like big major goals as well, because those industries are so gigantic. But for me, it's like they're not transparent either. You can't interact with those entities. That's why it feels so far away from yourself. And like a lot of artists are going down the route of doing like independent, you know, doing their own label, doing their own releasing, their own producing. And it's like, at least that way you can still hear yourself. You can just create what you want and release it that way, and it doesn't need to go through this giant like melting pot that just seems to create nothing but chaos for the people involved ultimately. So you can still do these things, but do you really need it to be what you think you want that to be? Like, do you need it to be in those sectors, or can you just do it yourself? As
well, what it made me think of it, basically me and my mum went to watch Downton Abbey, the movie, like I don't even know, but she wanted to go see it, so we went.
I love Maggie.
And they were like having like a movie set on in the Abbey, like they were getting this film crew and whatever, and they had actresses, and they were all like, oh god, we're gonna have actresses, and it wasn't a positive thing. It was like, you know, they're dancing monkeys basically, like actors and all that kind of like performers were not seen in like a classy or good light before. And I think maybe them having high paying salaries is like what made it more attractive to everyone. And also people like get obsessed, don't they? And it's weird. But they
it's
have
money,
fans.
Fame, ego, and all of that is in there.
But what I was gonna say is, I've always felt that though, is like, especially even like comedians, it gives me the like creeps, because, and me knowing where I come from as a performer, and having known loads of people who study performance and within that industry, it's a lot of people looking for love. It's a lot of unhealed souls, and it's actually quite sad. Like, and yeah, there's talent, and some people are healed and they're doing amazingly. But there is a lot of that. There is a lot of people, which is why they lose themselves, which is why we lose amazing artists, because they were in it because they needed love.
And their trauma was exploited as a result.
Yeah, exactly. And they were given lots of love, but it wasn't the right kind, and it was exploitative, and you know, love is it love if it's exploitative? What did I think? There was I can't remember what musician now, but I was watching an interview, and I was reading something, maybe it was Bruce, I don't know. But anyway, he was saying that he went into the gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's saying that he went into this gig and was like, actually, I don't... Oh yeah, put your phones away. That's what he said. He's like, I don't want phones. Or she... I don't know who it was. I'm going to have to remember.
I'm sure many people are going to have said the same thing.
I don't want phones in my thing, because... And she wrote it really nicely on Twitter, like, guys, like, ideally, like, at my gigs, it would be really nice if you put your phones away. And so many people got angry, and they were like, oh, well, I paid my money so I can do what I want, basically.
Yeah.
And she was like, then she realised, oh, so this is what I am to you. Even though, you know, these are supposed to be my fans, my supporters, and actually I'm just a dancing monkey.
It's a product, it's a commodity.
Oh, this keeps happening. This happened last time. My bed. You turn that off.
You were like wind down for bed.
Yeah. Oh, I remember, it was in a magazine. I'm gonna have to go get it. This is off camera.
Once you get that, I'll just chat to the camera.
Okay.
Hope your day's going well, whoever's listening.
Yeah, she's not a big artist, but she's another one that she's called is she? I don't know. Yeah, Mitski, she's called. But yeah, she's a cool interview, to be honest. So if anyone wants to get Huck.
I've never heard of Huck.
They're the artsy, like, I bought them for the photographers. And the fashion stuff, but yeah, cool. It was a good read.
It's a vibe.
That's why I couldn't remember. I was like, what is that from? Like, I'm in a trance.
I was reading something recently where it was like this, I think it was in The Guardian, and one of their journalists was interviewing people that had been really famous at one point and then weren't famous now, and like what that journey was like. And like most of them were basically like, they still held out hope that they would get to those highs again because of the like adoration almost, you know, and the validation it gave them, and like how difficult it was to like deal with it at the time and then deal with losing it afterwards. And I think it is a lot of what you're saying, like people looking for love and then you're exploited and there's such high highs, such low lows. Like really, is that something to aim for? And like, is it about the art at that point? No, it's not.
I think it's a sad industry, and anyone with any kind of real self-validation and love leaves. Showcasing people like Doja Cat, who clearly she knows herself, she knows her self-worth, and she's got boundaries, and she's not there just to be famous, she's there because of what she's creating. So like, I don't really know her that well, but like, I think if someone's in it for that short amount of time and they can say, hey, I'm gonna go, then that says a lot.
Well, yeah, we all know, I think at this point, how bad the industries are. I mean, look at the amount of sexual abuse allegations, among many other things that have come out of all of those sectors. It's clearly not glossy and shiny as it looks when we look at it, and then beat ourselves up about the goals that we have that might be in those areas, you know.
And you don't need. Oh yeah, this is like another thing, like a revelation I had about, like, are you taking care of the relationships that you have? Are you taking care of all the things that you have? Are you taking care of the work and the money that you have? Are you really nurturing and growing those things? Because if you're not, why would you be given more?
Yeah.
Because you can't handle it. You can't even handle it. You're just spending all your money. So obviously, if you would, with just that little amount, then obviously if you had more, you'd do the same freaking thing. You can't handle it. So you have to learn how to nurture the small things. Whether it's you've only got relationship with your family, you've got no friends. Okay, grow that friend, that relationships with the family. Even if it's just one parent, one sibling, make that super strong. And then like you're earning minimum wage. Okay, spend it on the things that matter. Save a little bit, even if it's a really small amount. Really treat it with respect. Like everything should be treated with respect, as if it was a gift, because none of it is like, we don't necessarily like deserve it. We all mess up, we all do things, but we're given these amazing things, and all you can do is like make the most out of it. It's pretty cool. Like, so at that point you go, actually I have more than enough. Like, the people with so little learn how to make the most out of everything.
But the people with like little in the kind of systems we live in can nurture those relationships and focus on the things that actually bring joy in life. It's like we're in a blessed situation where we can focus on that foundation. There's plenty of instances where people have been exposed to a lot of money, a lot of fame, from nothing to that, but because you've never nurtured those sorts of foundations in your relationships, then it gets so chaotic and out of hand. And it's like, actually it's a blessed situation to not be in that situation and be able to focus on these things that are important for your character and your self-growth and who you are. Because if you had an injection of money when you were like 16, like, it does happen, like, what would have happened to you? You know, you would have been like every star that grew up on Disney, or every star that grew up on these kids shows where their life is out of hand. It's not like they didn't have the money, like, it still came to them, but all of these other things that we've been able to focus on in our lives, they've had to do either a lot later, or they've not even made it to that point because they've been chewed up and spat out by the exploitation of those sorts of industries.
How I see it is like, that was the life lesson that they needed. We've been through other things that are very challenging, that we needed. They could handle some of them. They had to go through a lesson of going through that stuff, but publicly. So that was a lesson for them.
I can only imagine what that's like, though.
Whereas, like, our lessons are different. You know, I think we all are given exactly what we need. And that includes monetary and lessons and everything. I don't know. I'm just in such a space of, like, gratitude and, like, it's chill. Like, I can't ask for anything more because I don't have it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if I die tomorrow, all those ideas and things that you want and chasing. Oh yeah, so that's what I wrote. And so she stopped running for love. It was here all along, right within, a source of power radiating from within, waiting for her to tap into at any point. She chose love. But in terms of, when I say love, everything you're chasing is for love. Like, the money, the any kind of power, the clothes, anything material, even the relationships, like other relationships.
Yeah.
The dreams, the expectations, It's all running for love. But the moment we just stop running and sit your butt down, look around you. How can I make the most out of what I have?
It's just funny because I think the low moments, like even when you're like ill or if you just hit a low moment, I know that my first realization when I was like that element where you pick yourself up and you start to like rise out of how you're feeling or you start to recover, you do have that realization, because I've had it a few times, but it's like you say, you forget. You have that realization of exactly what's around you and exactly what to be grateful for, because there's a lot of things to be grateful for right in your immediate space that you lose sight of.
Yeah.
And like when you're chasing all of these things, and it's like the love is here, the love is close, it's in, and it's around closely to you.
And like,
so it's funny.
For me, it was honestly, it was a realization of like, firstly, ground myself. I'm human, I'm ordinary, just like everybody else, and that is fine. And also, not everybody shows love in the way that I do or that I understand. But we need to allow it. And as well, we live in a world where there's so many quotes and whatever, like, oh, if they've messed you up, no more chances, and have high boundaries and blah blah. No, that's so toxic. Like, it's actually not right. Because the moment you have your eyes opened, you see that everyone has good intentions. And it's gonna sound so naive to some people, I know that, but it's true. Like, it is so true. It's just that everyone's coming from their own understanding, their own perspective, their own journey, and your only job is to just make the most out of the people around you and love them as much as you can. Doesn't matter how messed up they are.
And to other people, them making the best of their situation is going to look very different to you making the best of your own, and that's where a lot of judgment can come in.
And I feel like I've been so judgmental of, like, I don't know, like my family, or I've just been so like hard-hearted and defensive and pushing away, and I don't want that. And then I complain, like, you know, we can complain like, oh, I don't have these relationships, or I'm not as close as I want to be to this person. Well, then try, put in the effort. Do they know? How would they know? Like, really show it. And there's nothing wrong with showing love and care. Like, it's just so nice to be able to do that.
But I think you're coming to that realization as well because you're not scared of rejection anymore, and you're not defensive to that. So naturally, it's like what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like, show up, communicate, like show these things to people, and I think a lot of that comes from just not being scared of rejection anymore either. So you can actually show those things to everyone that you would want to show that to, you know, and show up.
That's so true, and it's forgiveness of anyone who's said anything very critical. Because the moment you forgive that label no longer serves you. It no longer resonates, and you don't have to believe it. And then you can see yourself without criticism, and then you don't want to, like you said, you're like, oh, I don't really care if you reject me because I don't reject me, and I won't reject you. I'm here for you. Even if you freaking hate me. And yes, there are boundaries. Take your time away if you're called to from people. That's fine, but sometimes people are assholes. We all are, and we gotta be there for each other. This life is tough. This life is a horrible thing sometimes. And we need each other. We absolutely need each other. And nothing is harder than life, especially when you're on your own. So
Yeah.
I'd rather have someone who's imperfect and irritating sat next to me telling me about their stupid stories and me having some sort of grace and patience to show them love and make memories that way and have no judgment, release judgment. I'll have a great time. At least, like, I get it now. I think before I'd be like, why are people hanging around with these idiots? Like, I get it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to admit that you don't want to be alone, and it's not settling. It's none of that. It's just being grateful for what you're given.
Yeah. I love that. I was going to say something there, but it went totally out of my head. Oh.
It'll come back.
But it will come back. I was thinking something about just like understanding where people are coming from, and like in this sort of conversation, it gives just more transparency to just how people operate and what people are doing, and that, I don't know where I was going with that transparency element, but it's just nice because, you know, you don't feel so different from other people, and like talking about these things are important because everyone thinks about them, you know, like being able to communicate and open up about them allows us to actually get closer and just give more transparency to how we as humans actually operate and how we think and why we do what we do. And people really are just trying to do the best for whatever their circumstances are and whatever's around them most of the time.
Yeah, it's definitely a mentality shift from, I think when people go through trauma or they delve too deep into depression and anxiety, you lose trust in other people, you see the world as a bad place. But if you look hard enough, every person, I mean, little me knew this very, very well, very, very well. And I remember I'd say, I don't hate anyone. I'd always say that. I tell everyone that, and people say, what do you mean? You don't hate anyone. And yeah, I think that's a great way to be, not to hate anyone.
Yeah.
I never really, I just wanted to love, and I think that's like a very mushy subject for a country, or, you know, even America, I think, is the same. For people who don't want to talk about emotions and it's all me, and we're all in this independent world together.
I think it makes people easier to manage though when they don't realise the similarities between people, which is why this transparency is important. We're not actually that scary. Talking about your emotions allows there to be more links across everyone and more understanding, and that can only be a good thing. Like, let's open it up.
Speaking of linking and seeing similarities, so tapping back into Turkish side, I found this series and I'm like obsessed, and I have to like discipline myself, I can watch one a day because they're like 2 hours long. And it goes like this. I'll sit. I never watch series, but this one, I'm there for it. And it's making me want to speak more Turkish and write in Turkish, read books in Turkish, whatever. I've made dinner, and it was a Turkish recipe, and proper taps back in, and I think it's really helped actually. But the main thing I've realised is that I see my face and my features very differently now, because for a long time I thought, not very pretty, I'm not, I don't look like the definition of, you know, you look on social media or whatever, what beautiful is. It's usually lighter hair and it's these different features. And since I've been watching these shows, except for the girls who've had their noses done, which is a whole other topic, but the other girls on the TV show, and I've been watching Turkish vlogs, like girls who do Turkish vlogs, and seeing that, watching their faces and seeing their features, I'm like, oh, there I am. And now I fully understand what they mean
You're represented.
by representation.
Yeah, that's all I was thinking then.
And I didn't realise I'm not represented in the country I live in. it's great.
Me neither, mate.
It's great because they represent obviously like a lot of Asian girls and black girls now. But actually, I've just realised like I'm not there. I'm not there, and I only just realised that because I felt so validated watching these other girls in these shows, and I was like, oh, they're beautiful too. That means I can be.
Yeah.
So it's just really
well,
nice.
You are, Leyla.
But it's just nice, isn't it? It's being like, oh, there's my nose, and there's that
You
facial
see,
structure and the
yeah.
eyes, and yes, it's refreshing. And obviously, I do have British features mixed in, but there's a lot of Turkish influence there, so it's just nice.
Well, yeah, and when you visit Turkey soon as well, it'll be another part of that journey for you. It's gonna be great, yeah.
I'm gonna have to like tear myself away, I think. I think there's a big part of me, like I said, it tapped me back into the childhood self who is just content with ordinary and loving.
But that's why it's good
others.
to know where you're from as well, and like, you know, see that represented and seek it out. Like, I remember I followed a few people on Instagram just because they had the same body type as me, and I thought I need to see that because I don't have abs, and obviously for a guy typically there's like two body types. There's like skinny but still toned, or is big and muscly. That's all I was seeing, and I'm like, I didn't even see anyone with my body, which is just normal to me, so I thought I was weird. So I had to seek out people that were just showing their body for what it was, so I could see myself there too. And I was like, these people look like me, I need to follow them, I need to have them in my space, because I don't see myself represented anywhere else, and I know that's going to be good for me to see. And it was good, and it really made me value those parts of myself. And looking into my heritage and culture and connecting to like the gypsy side and connecting to the part of me that's half European and not English at all, and looking into those roots, it helped me to see who I was reflected back in there as well. And before I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that could feed into some of our past as well, and how we viewed ourselves, because when you don't see yourself represented, you just think that you're ugly because you're not part of what you're seeing in the mainstream.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, it properly hit me, this I was like, wow. And now actually understand my face. But also what you were saying about, you know, the body and stuff. For me, it's oh my gosh, I can't breathe. Hang on.
Get a quick sip of water in there.
For me, it was the bodies were always there. So like on, I don't know, the vlogs I watch, or there are certain influencers that I was already following, let's say when I had Instagram, but it's actually noticing it. Like, oh, she doesn't have that body type everyone says she should have, but I think she's really pretty. This whole time, I never noticed she has that body shape because I think she's pretty. And then you're like, actually, she doesn't have a waist. She doesn't have, you know, or the guy doesn't have abs, or whatever it is. But I think he's attractive. He's a good-looking guy. He must get loads of girls. Like, whatever it is, you just kind of... Obviously, that is... I'm not saying that is how you get validation.
No, but it just helps when you can see more things. Like, it just helps you to reassess, like, what do I actually think? You know, now I'm seeing all of these different options, a different diversity, and you know, and you're seeing things that are more close to yourself. You're like, well, I do actually find that beautiful. I just haven't had that in front of my eyes before in these formats, or just, to be able to see that.
Tapped in to notice it. I think that's more for me. It's more just tapping in to seeing it, because before I was so worried about not being that everyone else was better and I was little poor old me. And that's the thing I wrote in the Turkish bit, is something like it's as if I'm the only one who's been breaking my own heart, and my family's. How did I become like this? How hard have I become? As if only life is treating me this way. Shock, Leyla. No. We're playing this game of life together. Basically.
Yeah. But it's
think,
true.
I just think
sometimes you just. So it's like we've said it so much, but you feel alone in so many unique ways, don't you, in yourself, and then it takes a certain level of awareness for you to think, it's not just me. And this is why transparency is important and representation's important, and you know, not idolizing other people or thinking that, you know, I don't have this, I don't have that. All of it feeds into this.
What's your song of the week?
Time. Oh, my song of the week is by Juice WRLD. Speaking of artists that were gone too soon from the industry, but very talented. And the song's called Doom. And my little brother and my older brother both recommended it, said it was really good and that I would like it. And I do. I think it's kind of the vibe it gives me is someone that's kind of been swept up into Hollywood and they're just on the streets. They're like, what the fuck has just happened in my life? But I'm still me and I'm just gonna do my own thing and do my own vibe with this. That's the kind of vibe I get from the song, and I just love the sound. It's so catchy. It's just in my head at the moment.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check that out. I don't actually know that one.
I was surprised that I'd never come across it, to be honest.
I sent you my one, which was Paolo Nutini. I was actually like the past 2 days I was like, what's the song? And then today I was like, I walked around and did some photos to change up the energy, and then I was like, I really want to skate, so I came back home, got my skateboard and then skated and had my headphones on, and that song came on and I was like, this is this one. This is the song. So even though I had just been watching like the whole night yesterday, actually it was I was DJing with the world. It was great. So I was sat watching these like 80s music videos, especially like proper old school, you know, where they're like in a band and they're dancing together. And the window was open. And I actually wrote the songs down in the list. So it was first No Woman No Cry, beautiful,
classic.
And then Stairway to Heaven. As there was like a guitar solo. As the guitar solo started, the wind blew in, and then it just started to rain. And then the next song was Purple Rain, and it was great. So it was beautiful. I was just DJing with the world. But yeah, mine is
it's all flowing.
Shine a Light. I don't know if I said it. But yeah, I did say it. But yeah, very good song. And then so today's card is The Age of Light. You've been training for this for lifetimes. And you'll like this because it's like an Egyptian.
Oh yeah, I do like it. You're right.
I can't be bothered to move. Sorry.
Any
guys.
Egyptian imagery.
We're clearly doing this for ourselves because I can't even be bothered. I have to do this quick.
It wouldn't connect if we weren't.
Right. Too much caring about what other people think ruins these kinds of things. So. Mystics and sages throughout the ages have predicted this period in history, and you decided to incarnate in the middle of it. Ooh. There is no mistake that you are supposed to be here at this time of great change, like the 33. If you ever feel unprepared or daunted by the path that is calling you, know this: you've been training for this for lifetimes. You're way more than the days that have breathed. What, Leyla? You're way more than the days that have breathed through you in this life. Okay. You're also all of the lifetimes that came before. All of these experiences have polished your soul. I'm sorry, I'm so bummed up. I can't breathe. Let me just breathe.
It's nice. It's adding a nice raspiness to the oracle cards. It's like Phoebe on Friends when she's ill and she loves how she sounds when she's singing.
Great. Yeah, so experiences have polished your soul into the most magnificent expression that is your authentic self. Your soul has many facets. I'm now watching this back already. Like, that's just every time I read these stupid things. Imagine a fingerprint. Your soul is 1,000,000 times more intricate than that. If you put together all of your fingerprints of all the people you have been, you would not even get close to fathoming how much of a unique masterpiece you are. You came in with a clear soul plan. You came in with wisdom beyond your years. This is a part of you that longs to be seen. This is a part of you that is ready to step forward, that is ready to emerge. This is not the lifetime to stay hidden, but to step forth, be seen, and rise. Which is funny, because we're talking about being seen, but in my understanding, this is to be seen by your closest, the people around you, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
Because often the ego wants to make that a bigger thing, and it's not that.
Being seen is just being yourself. Like, I feel like everyone understands that there's certain parts of yourself you hold back until you've worked through whatever they are to showcase them, because they're who you are. That everyone must relate to that, and it's being seen is just actually being seen for who you are, and that takes a lot of courage, and it's a long journey.
Yeah, definitely. So I call forth the soul gifts and soul training that I have received throughout all of my lifetimes, or this one if you just believe that, that's fine. I am ready to embody them all now without hesitation and without fear. I have been training for this for lifetimes, or just during this life. You're a legend. You got through this one.
One's enough. God.
So solid. Well, anyway, I'm gonna go and get on the ramps with Tony Hawk. Yeah, we've made friends.
He's still about.
And it's a big one. It's a big one. And yeah, he's gonna try and show me how to do the ramps because I'm a bit nervous. So we'll see. But he does do them quite big, so we will see.
Do the big one first. Get over the fear.
Yeah, I'll break my entire body. But we're gonna do this. Cool.
Well, have the best time. Please show me. I want to see you go down a ramp now. I want to see it. This is a challenge.
Okay. Maybe Saturday.
Like, oh. I'll look forward to that video.
Alright. See ya. Bye.
See you then. Take care. Have a good week.